Hey y'all, it's Dr. Leah with another episode of And I Should Care Because, the podcast where we talk about higher ed policy changes and I help you navigate them one news article at a time. So don't forget, look at the description box, always check out the articles that I'm referencing. What I'm talking about may not be directly exactly what the article says. That's not the point of the show. The point is to bring up different topics that you may not encounter and then give you my perspective on why you should care. And then hopefully you read the article and you think about it for yourself. Even if it isn't relevant for you, it could be relevant for someone you know, someone in your family, or someone you meet down the line. So you just never know. Anywho, today's topic, we're talking about community college. So there's been a lot of different news articles talking about schools wanting to drop the community from their name. There have been articles about, alumni fighting against that. There's been articles talking about how some people feel like community college can sometimes be a trap because they have to take remedial courses and they can never really get to the good stuff that's going to transfer for college credit for a four-year institution. So, lots of things to talk about. But how are we going to wrap it all up together? I think what we should really talk about is community college a good investment or is it a waste of money? Now, I'll just cut to the chase. I think it depends on how you do it, which might be a little bit of a cop-out, I'll admit. But it really does matter your strategy, how you go into community college. If you just go in and start taking random classes, and then when you go and try to transfer to a four-year institution, they're like, nah, bruh, we're not taking any of this. Well, you didn't have a plan. Maybe you didn't talk to the transfer coordinator. Like, there's a lot that could go wrong if you just start picking classes out of the catalog just to, fill up your schedule. But if you know what you want to do and you have good grades or you've demonstrated that, through testing or whatever, hey, maybe you don't need these math prereqs that, if they try to force you to take them anyway, that might be a problem. So let's get into it. We got to talk about pros and cons. And by now you may know I'm a big fan of that. I like to talk about what are the good things, what are the bad things, at least from my point of view. And then if you have some of your own, you can add them in the comments. And just kind of think about it. Chop it up with your friends. Hit me up on Twitter. Keep the conversation going. Anywho, pros. I think one of the biggest things that community colleges have going for them is the cost. So it is not as expensive to go to your local community college as it may be to even go to an in-state public university. So you can definitely save some dollars. And if you watch the student loan episode, them federal student loans are going to come back to bite you. So even though there's going to be some loan forgiveness and everything, you can't necessarily rely on all of that to solve all of your debt issues. So if you're trying to take some courses and figure out, kind of what you want to do, maybe test the waters a little bit, or what you want to do and you want to boost your GPA, let's say you want to go into, biochemistry, or you want to go into engineering or something like that, and in high school, you was fooling around, you was cutting up, so your math scores weren't all that great. Or you don't remember any of your chemistry and you're like, dog, I cannot apply. I can't get into this program. I can't be pre-med. And I got a F plus in chemistry. So maybe you're going to community college to kind of boost your scores. That's dope. Do it. Stay close. You don't have to pay for housing if you have a good relationship with your family. Or if you do pay for your own apartment or whatever else, you're at least staying in the community that you know, and you don't have to, get over that hurdle of finding a new place, finding a new roommate, or living on campus and having to adjust to their rules. There's a lot of things that you have to think about when you go from living at home or living where you're comfortable to moving to a new place and trying to get comfortable there. So if you can commute, get your classes in, and then transfer, and then you have a better, chance of getting into the school and the program that you want to, then it makes sense. Save the money instead of paying all the high dollars to take extra classes and maybe take 5 years to complete a degree. Maybe you can cut some of that off and do a community college. And a lot of places have online courses too. So I think that's a win. So the cost is definitely a pro. Another pro is that when you really think about the faculty that you're engaging with on a campus like that, they're not really doing research. Some schools do have a requirement for tenure track professors at a community college to do academic research, but it's not the same. It's not a big requirement, and that's usually for schools that are connected to other, big universities and stuff like that. So they have access to resources and things that your typical community college that's kind of hanging out on its own doesn't have access to. So by and large, you're getting taught by people whose only job it is to teach. It's either adjunct faculty or you've got full-time professors who are only there teaching and doing service and things like that. They're not focused on research. So that means you're getting a lot of face time with professors. And that's a big deal. At least it was to me when I was in school, because I didn't sign up to get taught by a graduate student or TA. No shade. It's not like they don't always know what they're doing or anything. They may know the material, but I'm trying to get letters of recommendation. I'm trying to expand my network. And you can't do it the same way with a graduate student or TA as you can with a full-time faculty member that knows people at other institutions and can hook you up. So being taught by full-time faculty when all they're doing, they're still doing more than teaching. It's just that research isn't on that list usually. I think that is a win. So you have access to someone who knows the material, who knows other people in academia, and who can write your letter of recommendation, can be a mentor, can be an ally, even after you transfer to another school if that's what you end up doing. So being taught by full-time faculty, I think, is a huge plus. You can start building your network and have people to write letters of recommendation before you even move to a four-year institution, because chances are you're going to need that. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Another benefit to community college, I think, is that the flexibility, right? So there's lots of evening courses, weekend courses, online stuff. It's a lot easier to fit your day-to-day if you're still trying to work a job and do that, or if let's say you're going back to school, right? There's a lot of folks that decide, I don't want to do this career anymore, or they didn't have the opportunity to go to college right after high school, so they need to take some extra courses and whatever. The flexibility of being able to do your 9 to 5, have some dinner, and then go to class at 6 or 7. I mean, it's a long day, and I watch my mom do it, but it beats having to try to take time off of your work or, figure something out and make up hours outside of the normal hours so you can go to class at noon. Like that's a lot. So the flexibility of, hey, I can take this night course, I can take this weekend course, I can rearrange, my schedule to make my evenings free. I think that's a win. So you don't have to juggle your entire life just to make class fit. I mean, bigger universities will often have night classes too, but I feel like, at least in my experience, the offerings in the evenings are not as robust. With community colleges, they're offering everything all the time. So yeah, the student center might not be open 24/7, but you can take a class at 7 p.m., which means you can get your work in, go to the gym, grab a bite, and go to class. I think that's a major win. Now, there are some, I'm going to say cons, but maybe just more things to consider. I don't think that it's necessarily like, oh, but watch out, the boogeyman is coming. It's not that big of a deal. But there are some gotchas that I feel you need to be aware of and you need to consider when you're taking classes. The first thing is, If you don't really have any kind of a plan for what you want to do with community college, going to community college isn't going to save you. So if you're going and just kind of taking classes just because that's what everybody else is doing, that's money that you're spending that you don't have to spend. If you are in the place where you know you want to do school and you're just not exactly sure what you want to pursue, even then, community college may not be the answer because there are other ways that you can explore those options without having to pay tuition. If, however, you know in general, like I kind of am thinking about this, I want to go to community college, take some foundational courses, kind of get my, general requirements in and see how school fits, then I think that's a good fit. You're you're trying it on for size. And if you're going to do that, you should do that at a community college to see what it's like, to see, okay, can I hang academically? Is this something that I really want to pursue? Is the time investment worth it? You can spend a semester doing that and it's not a big deal. But to go through the rigmarole of being accepted to a 4-year institution and doing all the things, moving if you go somewhere that's out of state or even just, a couple hours away in the same state, you don't want to be doing all that driving. Gas prices, you can't do that. So I think that if you're careful about it, even if you don't know exactly what you want to do, you can make community college work. But I think it's riskier here because you might end up taking courses that are irrelevant to what it is you end up deciding you want to do. If that's okay for you, then it's not a con. It's just a mistake or a learning opportunity. Not a mistake, a learning opportunity, right? So that's one, that community college isn't like, the end all be all in terms of saving you if you don't know what you want to do with your life. The second thing is that there are some schools that may require you to take remedial courses and things that you don't necessarily need. So you need to look into that for yourself. And that's one of the articles that I was talking about earlier where, some people feel like it's a trap that they're taking all these courses when they're like, bruh, I know this stuff. I don't need this. I don't need to take algebra. I don't need to take pre-calculus. I'm ready for calculus. I don't need to take this, 090 English class. I know how to write. I'm ready for college level, but you keep trapping me in these other courses. So that's not every school, and it's not everyone. Unfortunately, there are certain types of people that may fall into this trap or be eligible for the trap than others. So you need to be aware. You need to, make sure that before you sign on the dotted line to go to community college, that you understand what your courses would look like, what they would require you to take, and whether or not that includes courses that you're not willing to pay for. So if you're just fresh out of high school and you want to do community college instead of the 4-year institution because you're saving dollars or whatever, then you shouldn't, unless your grades were that bad, you shouldn't have to take pre-calc again. You shouldn't have to take an English class that's like a high school English class because you did that already. You should be ready for college level courses. So be careful. If you, however, don't have a good foundation in math and you're like, I'm going to take algebra or pre-calc to make sure that I'm ready when I transfer to a 4-year institution, do it. That's what it's there for. And that's another pro for community colleges is that you can kind of take those courses and brush up on things that you struggled with so that you have a better chance of surviving in the academic wilderness of a 4-year institution because they don't always offer those courses. They're starting with the introductory stuff, which may not be introductory to you if you didn't do well and you didn't understand it in the first place. So just be careful. Understand what your needs are and talk to people. Talk to a transfer coordinator. Talk to whoever about what courses you will need to take at their community college and whether or not you'd be required to test out of certain remedial courses, what those requirements are, etc. Just be prepared, understand what you're walking into, and you won't get trapped. The final thing that can seem kind of like a con, which again is more of a just beware, is transferring. So you may not want to do more than a 2-year degree, and that's fine. As long as you get what you need to do what you want to do in life, you're smooth. That's 2 years that you don't have to pay school for if you're not doing a 4-year institution. So if you could get it in that way, get it in. Less debt, done sooner, on the path of doing what you want to do. Sounds good to me. But a lot of people enroll in community college because they intend to transfer to a 4-year institution. Transferring can be a nightmare. But if you're careful about the courses you take, then it may not be that bad. So each community college is going to have some kind of a transfer specialist or something. They may have a different name, transfer coordinator, but there's going to be an office that will help you understand what credits will transfer to which university. Some community colleges even have a transfer program for specific universities. So, for example, I went to University of Michigan, Ann Arbor for my PhD program. And there were a lot of undergraduates who went to Washtenaw Community College, which Ann Arbor is in Washtenaw County in Michigan. So there was a specific program to help you make the leap from the community college to the University of Michigan. There was recruiting and everything else. So it was a very special program that when you do this, you know, okay, I can take all of these things. These will all transfer. I will have this standing when I get to the University of Michigan in this major and da-da-da-da-da. Other schools have that too. So if you're interested in going to the school that there's a connection with from your community college, do it. Just go to that office and say, help me, please. I would like to do this. How, please? And they'll help you. Otherwise, if you're trying to go somewhere else, like let's say that you're in New Jersey and you want to go to a school in California, well, there may not be a specific program for that, but they can at least, they have the rough estimate of, okay, well, usually this transfer is no problem, this transfer is no problem, and they'll probably be able to connect you with someone or say, okay, you're looking for this kind of office, so call this place or look for this on their website. Or they may even sit down with you and find the appropriate number and reach out. Sometimes it's easier for staff to reach out to other staff than for students to reach out to staff at a new institution. It's just the way it works sometimes. Unfair a little bit, yeah. But, it is what it is. Take the help that you can get. So just make sure that you figure out what you want to do with your community college credits as early as possible. So that way you don't take a bunch of courses that won't transfer. Now again, if you're in the situation where you have to take some courses like algebra or pre-calc or, some writing courses, literature courses to kind of bolster your academics because high school was kind of meh, or let's say it's been a minuto and high school was some time ago, you're number of years away from high school, right? That's fine. You're going to take those courses. They're not going to transfer for credit. But you will be able to, get into the 4-year institution that you're trying to get into because you will be seen as college ready. So we're not talking about that situation. We're talking about you're taking chemistry or biology or I always go to those because that's my field. But there's plenty of other things too. Sociology, psychology, all the other things. English. So whatever it is that you think you want to major in at a 4-year institution, you're trying to take some of those foundational courses at community college. All things are not equal. So for example, let's say that you're taking a chemistry course at a community college that does not have a lab component. So it may be a general chemistry course, but it doesn't have a lab component. The school you want to go to requires a lab component along with general chemistry. That may not transfer from the community college because you don't have the lab component. Now, if you can register and take that lab separately, then maybe it can transfer. But other schools may not. I know that the school I went to for undergrad, you enrolled in the lab and the lecture separately, and so you got separate grades, but you had to enroll in them together. Now, that was years ago. Maybe that has changed by now. But you took them together, and that was it. So I don't know that taking just the general chemistry lecture would transfer for you to just have to take the lab and that's it. So those are the types of things that talking to a transfer coordinator type person would be really helpful for, so that you don't take all these courses and think, ah, yeah, I'm gonna be in there now. And then you start talking to a 4-year institution and they're like, no, not that, not that, not that. Because you'll be like, well, I wasted my time. And you did, if you're thinking that you're going to have to, you're going to be able to skip over these requirements. So make sure that the classes you take will transfer. And the only way that you can do that is if you have an understanding of what you want to do next. So try to figure that out as soon as possible so that you can plan it out with someone who already knows this game. It's really hard to navigate on your own. And it's really hard to navigate when you don't know where you want to end up. So if you have an idea, even if you have a list of places that you're looking at, that's better than just saying, I want to go somewhere and do a degree, but I don't know where. So try to make those decisions as early and upfront as possible so that you limit the amount of time lost if you end up taking classes, maybe your first semester that can't transfer. You can stop that mess and start taking the stuff that will. So those are really the only cons that I can think of. I'm sure there's more. I did not go to community college. Well, that's kind of a lie. The high school that I went to was on a community college campus. And junior and senior year, we had to take classes there. So we had to choose kind of a career track of sorts. And you ended up taking a couple of college courses. And the high school didn't have its own gym. So your senior year, you enrolled in some kind of fitness course where you had to go to the gym a certain number of times during the semester. And the number of times that you went and you fill out your little card thing, that determined the grade you got. So I don't even really count that. That was just them being lazy. Like, you too old to play volleyball. Go get on the elliptical. Get out of my face. That's what that was. So I say I didn't really go to community college, but technically I did. Okay. So there are plenty of people who went to community college, like my mom, and it was helpful for her. It was great for her schedule because she had a whole entire family to take care of and a full-time job during the day. But she'll be the first one to tell you she was waking up at 4 a.m. to try to get work done and stay on top of it. So I think sometimes people think, oh, community college is not as rigorous and things because it's a community college. So it's like the local hangout. That's not true. That's simply not true. Just because it's a community college doesn't mean that there aren't academic standards and that it won't whoop your tail if you don't take it seriously. So there's still the same amount of work involved. There's still the same amount of effort and time requirement for these courses. It's just that there aren't as many courses to take that will get you a 4-year degree. So with that said, we're going to stop it here. And I want to know your thoughts. Have you gone to community college? Did you like it? Did you feel like it was a good investment? Or was it more of a waste of time? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. And we'll see where the conversation goes. Make it a great day. Make it a great day for somebody else. And I'll see you back here soon.